Hey folks, Bill here with a DSPy deep dive. I want to talk about prompts. It's a question that I've gotten as I've been working with people that are just really getting started. And I've been talking about this all week, but let's dive into it. So let's talk about the different prompts, how you can make them, how you can inspect them, and really understand what's happening under the hood here. So go ahead and set up my environment here. I'm just going to load in a basic model. And I'm going to work through a summarizer here. Super basic. We have a document. And you can see here that it has a number of new line characters. It also has some Python code, right? And this is nonsensical. The document doesn't actually matter here. What's important is that it kind of has some formatting that's important to us, okay? And we're going to see how that gets thrown off. So the first way to create a prompt here is to use the DSPi shorthand. And that's where you say, hey, I want to convert a document into a summary, okay? And we're going to see what that actually gives us here is the ability to predict with a given signature. Signatures are what DSPi calls prompts or prompt templates, but more or less the exact same thing. And we can see here that it's generating a document field and a summary field and a set of instructions. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how it summarizes. So you can see here that it has run a forward pass given this document and produced a summary. What's strange though is that not only is it including the output in the, the input in the output, but basically it's not even formatted, right? And we can see that from the history here. Right, so it's this is the exact prompt that's passed into DSPi. So we can see here, hey, it's not respecting our new lines. So let's talk about the next way to actually sort of test it, inspect it, and then fix it. So we've used this shorthand, and we can see that this is exactly what's passed into the language model. Again, doesn't respect the formatting. So let's talk about the other way to create signatures or really create these prompts, right? Manipulate them. So this signature right here that I'm creating is actually basically the exact same as the first signature through the shorthand. You can read the instructions. It's basically the exact same, right? And we can see that with inspecting it, we can see that it's going to give us the same wrong answer. It looks like I just need to print this in order to format it correctly. But you'll see here that we end up with the summary. And as we look at it, boo-hoo, doesn't work. So, sucks to be us. How do we fix this? I've worked on longer documents using DSPi. This was a pain. It wasn't in the documentation. I made a pull request, but I thought I'd record a quick video just to kind of teach people how to do it. First things first that we want to be able to do is we want to give it some more detailed instructions, right? We saw this instruction set that is the default. We can say, hey, the user will give you a document. You must produce a summary of this document. Only include the summary. So we have, again, a new predict function. We can see these different signatures that we've just talked about here, and we can see here that we have just updated that instruction set. So let's go ahead and see what the output is. So, it actually hasn't changed anything about the actual data template that's inserted, but let's see if it works anyways. So here we go, we're generating our prediction, and lo and behold, it's still including the document here. And we can see that if we inspect the history. So boo-hoo, well, we aren't actually out of the woods yet, right? So I want to tell you about a nice little trick here. So what we're going to do is we are going to format this input correctly. And the way in which we're going to do that is there is first, there's the starting way, which is that we want to format it as a string. Notice that there's a function and it'll just turn it into a string. And as we run that, you will notice, boom, the document is now formatted correctly. But we've all used ChatGPT. If you don't format things correctly, sometimes it can end up still not working, right? Maybe it thinks the summary is part of the document and it's just going to mimic that back. So all that I'm going to do in order to fix that, excuse me, let me get to the right one, is I'm just going to turn this into a Lambda function. So this is just going to be a function, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the very stupid thing that means I'm just going to wrap this in a couple of equals, just to give it some notation around it. Now this is where you might include something like XML for Claude, if you were using the Claude series of models and you knew that that little trick would work. And you know what we're going to do? So we're actually going to do the same with just string in the summary, just to make sure we don't have any funny business. So now let's go ahead and take a look at what these signatures look like. Now we have a document, we got some nice equals and a summary, right? So now let's go ahead and see what happens when we do that. Hey, we've solved the problem. Now we have a nice summary here. There's our input document. We get that nice summary, and it says, obviously it's summarizing the document. So I wanted to run through this. A lot of people have complained about some of the complexity in managing prompts, and I think because DSPy obfuscates a little bit of this in order to automate it, I thought, hey, let's just walk through a really basic example of how you can debug exactly what's happening under the hood without too much trouble. Hope you enjoyed.